Hi, welcome to another exciting video. Today's video is from Thomas Sowell TV. Quite interesting. Why overseas Indians out-earn their native counterparts. I'm also very interested in this video. I really love to know why. It's a little bit of history and expository. I'm so interested, and I'm sure you are too. That's why you clicked on this video. But before we dive into the video, my name is Ogechi's Ogechi Reaction. Welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, do not forget to subscribe. That way we are locked in together. Okay, turn on your post notification bell so get notified anytime I drop a new video. Okay, and do not forget to drop a meaningful comment on what you think about this video. First of all, it helps us understand this video very well. Brings up various conversations about the video. Also helps the algorithm and push this video out to people who actually intend to see it. Okay, and to all my returning subscribers and viewers, thank you for stopping by. Do you know what? Let's get into the video.
The history of Indians in various countries around the world has by no means been uniform. In some countries, Indians have enjoyed an income or occupational level above that of the majority population. This has been true not only in such African nations as Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, but also in such disparate societies as Malaysia, Fiji, and the United States. This has not been the case, however, in Guyana, where the local African-American population has historically been economically somewhat ahead of the Indians, though that was changing by 1967. While the Indians of South Africa have been economically ahead of the black majority there, they have been well behind the long-dominant white minority. Partly, these different fates of Indians in different countries reflect conditions and policies in the countries themselves, quite clearly in South Africa, for example, or in the degree of urbanization of the Indians, as in Guyana, where rural concentration has obvious negative implications for money income and urban occupational status. By and large, however, the economic positions of Indians abroad reflected the economic positions of the numerous divisions of the Indian people in India itself. The striking business success of the Gujaratis has been apparent in Bombay or in East Africa, and Gujaratis have outpaced other Indians economically as businessmen in Guyana, Fiji, and South Africa. Chettiars have likewise extended their prominent role as bankers, moneylenders, and traders from southern India and Ceylon to Burma, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Mauritius. The Tamils, who have dominated Indian migration to the plantations of Sri Lanka and Malaysia, have no such record of entrepreneurial success in those countries, but neither do they match the Gujaratis or the Chettiars in this respect in India itself. The economically superior position of the Indians in Singapore, as compared to Indians on the Malay Peninsula, goes back to colonial times, and likewise reflects differences that have long existed between the same groups in India. Indians in Guyana are products of a poverty-stricken region of northeast India, and have no such pattern of striking economic success abroad as the commercial Gujaratis or the money-lending Chettiars. In short, Indians in some countries have been middlemen minorities, and in others not. Where they have been businessmen, their commercial success has to varying degrees tended to be reflected in rising levels of education over time and in a movement into the professions, much in the pattern of the overseas Chinese and the Jews. Also, like these other middleman minorities, Indians in these roles have tended to keep a low political profile. Few have pursued political careers overseas, and politics has had little or nothing to do with their rise to affluence in foreign lands. Often politics has been an obstacle to that rise, and, especially in post-colonial times in Africa and Asia, politics has been a threat to positions already achieved in the economy. Idi Amin's brutal expulsions of 50,000 Indians and Pakistanis from Uganda was the worst and most dramatic example of hostile political processes at work, more subtly and insidiously, in much of post-colonial Africa, in Burma, and to a lesser extent in Malaysia and Fiji. The vicissitudes of the overseas Indians also follow a pattern of long standing in the history of the overseas Chinese, the Jews, the Armenians, the Igbos of Nigeria, the Lebanese in West Africa, and other middleman minorities. Despite many tragedies and injustices, overseas Indians seem to have suffered less severely than other leading middleman minorities, whether due to historical happenstances or to differences in the behavior of the Indians themselves. However, like the overseas Chinese and the Jews, overseas Indians have generally held themselves separate and aloof from the surrounding populations. Indians have in fact tended to be much more resistant to intermarriage with the surrounding population than the overseas Chinese. The oft-repeated claim that hostility to Jews, Chinese, or other middleman minorities is due to their clannishness is belied by the fact that even greater clannishness among the overseas Indians seems not to have provoked as much hostility as the Jews, Chinese, and others have faced. Moreover, the deliberate decision of the Aga Khan to have his Ismaili followers in Africa adopt the language and culture of the surrounding society and to seek local citizenship did not spare the Ismailis the same fate as other overseas Indians in Africa. Even among those overseas Indians who were not middleman minorities, a certain tenacity, persistence, and frugality have been observed, as among other peoples from lands where survival has historically been difficult, the Scots or the Japanese, for example.
Indians that I know are actually very hardworking, right? They are actually very hardworking, and there's been so many things that Indians overseas, have been able to do to make themselves, separated and, stand out from the crowd. Like we've seen, they are very hardworking, they are tenacious, they try to just marry within themselves. A lot of things that, they've been doing. They are even in the educational sector, they are so educated. Indians are so educated. I love this, actually.
For example, transplanted to countries where subsistence is more easily obtained, such as Fiji or Malaysia, these Indians have eventually surpassed those indigenous to the country and whose way of life evolved under its more favorable conditions. That Indians have prospered in other countries around the world, while India itself has been poverty-stricken, remains a paradox, even after allowance for the fact that many of these prosperous Indian groups are also prosperous at home.
Yeah, it is. It's a paradox because India is still one of the very poor nations. Yeah, but Indians overseas, they do very well. Like how? It's just like in Nigeria, they say that the Igbos are very successful. But if you go to the eastern part of Nigeria, there is no development. There is nothing going on there. Do you understand? So that's the way, it's almost like the same situation going on with Indians. Indians in Africa, they are doing so well. Like they are doing so well. But their country is not, I don't know. Let's just continue.
In colonial East Africa, for example, Indians did not simply transfer their wealth to those countries, but usually began at quite modest and even precarious economic levels, from which they rose to affluence and sometimes riches. The more modest economic achievements of Indians in Guyana nevertheless represent a substantial rise from their original status as plantation laborers, treated little better than slaves. Whether the pattern of prosperity abroad and poverty at home reflects simply selective migration, or reflects as well barriers to economic development within Indian society, is a question of more than theoretical interest, and in fact a question of momentous practical implications. What is known is that the overseas Indians working in professional, technical, managerial, and administrative occupations around the world in 1981 added up to more than 250,000 people. Because of high levels of unemployment among people in such occupations in India, it is not clear that their skills and talents would have been put to use had they remained at home. Both India's doctors and engineers seek employment overseas in substantial numbers. Official efforts to get Indians to return from overseas to help develop their homeland have had meager results, despite preferential treatment of their investments relative to the treatment of investment by other non-citizens or by citizens living in India. However, remittances from overseas Indians, more than $5 billion in 1981, amounted to more than all the foreign aid used by India that year. The overseas Indians have thus made a significant contribution to their country of origin even without being there personally. In many cases, they have made even more of a contribution to the development of the countries to which they migrated.
I still believe and think that there is no place like home. If you like, travel all over the world, there is no place like home. So it's important that even as you're overseas, I mean, it's not a bad thing if you want to leave your country to go, harness your skills somewhere else, broaden your go get a master's or whatever. But it's also important that as you're trying to develop the economic system there, it's good that you come back home and develop your country. It is very, very important. Indians are doing so well overseas, but India itself is one of the poorest nations in the world. So why? It's not only India that has this issue. A lot of Nigerians, because if you can relate this back to Nigeria, are jackpine, like they are traveling out of the country. A lot of them don't want to return, and instead of you to come back home and use your skills here, and I also do not blame them, because even when they come back home, they are not properly appreciated. They are not they might not be able to put those things they have learned to good use, because there is no enough development. That's why it's important that you develop your home. Even within Nigeria, the eastern part, the Igbos, they leave the east to come to the west, the south, develop those parts of the country, and then the east is still in shambles. So I think that as much as you come here to make so much money, to develop the economy, it's important that you also take your wealth back home. You build the roads, you build skyscrapers, you build modern facilities and all those things. It's also very important, because there is no place like home. Anyway, please drop your comment about this. If you're an overseas Indian and you're seeing this video, please drop your comment on what you think about this. Why haven't you gone home to develop your country? Why are you still overseas? We are so interested in what you have to say about this. Let me know what you think about this. Might not be only in India, but today we're just specifically talking about India. I love India so much. It's one of my dream countries. I really love to visit India, because I've heard one of the best doctors, or one of the they have amazing great doctors in India. India is a blessed country. It's a blessed nation, and I really love to go to India one of these days. Do well to click on the red subscribe button if you haven't. Like this video, like this video, drop a comment, and do not forget to turn on your post notification bell. I'll see you in my next episode. Bye bye.